Hey, what is going on? Welcome to the BLERDDad Podcast. It's a space where we have unfiltered conversations and nerd out about fatherhood. I'm your host, glennlawrence. Super happy to be here. If you couldn't tell by how jovial that intro was, I just started out laughing just because right before you were here, I was doing daddy things, pushing things out of the way, making sure the kid stops crying, all that good stuff. Before I could get here and start talking to you fine people tonight. Yeah, things are going well. No sleep, operating off absolutely no sleep. But that's the fun part about it. I think that's the part that everyone talks about. No sleep, no sleep. Micro napping is definitely a trait that I'm glad that I partook. Is partook a word? I partook in before this all began. But yeah, the fatherhood thing is great. What are the cool things that are happening? I feel like his eyes are now tracking, because when the kids, when they're first born, they can't see very far in front of them, and now he's tracking. So now he can lock eyes on me. He can lock eyes on certain things. We got a very nice gift from one of our co-workers for the baby, which is these flashcards that help him distinguish shapes and whatnot. By the way, thank you for the outpouring of love and support that everybody has given for the baby. I really do feel like it takes a village, and everybody who has been gracious enough to give us something, we thank you. I think I've reached out to most of everybody who has given something and said thank you. And if not, I'm doing it. I know that we're sending out cards to everybody. Stephanie's super appreciative, as am I. Now we gotta pay the bills. We gotta keep the lights on. So we gotta make sure that we mention our sponsors, as we always do. Our sponsor, theymademewearit. They're incredible. They're dog stylists for the everyday paw rent. I can't say that enough. The everyday paw rent, very, very clever. They get your dog styled up. They don't do hair, they don't do nails, they don't do makeup, but what they do is get your doggy outfitted in the latest fashions and help them discover their fashionable side. It's a husband and wife team, and whether it's a Halloween costume, adorable dress, comfy jammies, or a custom designer gown, they will have your fur baby dripping as in the slang dripping, not wet, because nobody likes a wet dog. I mean, the wet dogs are cool. You know what I'm saying. Listen, go to their shop, theymademewearit.com, and you will be contributing to Hope for Paws. It's an animal rescue organization that works tirelessly to rescue and save the lives of abandoned animals. Who would leave an animal? That's so sad. You know why they probably left them? Because they didn't have dope fashion. If your animal has dope fashion, it's going to get them picked up. But what are you waiting for? Go visit theymademewearit.com and use code word blerd for 15% at checkout of the entire store. I feel like I am killing these damn reads now. Listen, we need another sponsor, because I need to see if I'm just so used to They May Be Wear It that I'm really good. So if you're out there, if you're in sponsor land and you're like, you know what, I'd like the BLERDDad to read some of our copy, go ahead and shoot us a message. We would be more than happy to make sure your message gets out there and your product gets purchased, or your store gets trafficked, or whatever happens. Speaking of whatever happens, we got a great guest tonight. A good new friend of mine Trinita Coefield. She was a co-host with me on the Open Mic Radio podcast. We had a great time talking, and we just got to chopping it up. And I was like, "Oh, I'd love to have you on and get some advice about parenthood from you." She was born and raised in the Washington, D.C. area and moved back after completing her undergraduate in justice studies at North Carolina Wesleyan College, and she did a tour in the United States Air Force where she served as a mental health technician. So we'll probably get into some mental health talks. Upon her arrival back home, she embarked on a civilian career, which ultimately led to her decision to obtain a master's in business administration from Keller Graduate School of Management, after which she pursued a career in project management alongside her career goals. She is also a CEO of Flyy Enterprises, LLC, and one half of the FlyyLytical Podcast. That's a lot. That's a mouthful. She's done a lot. She's doing a lot. And the thing that she is doing right now is coming to our little show here. So let me welcome my new friend, Trinita Coefield. Trinita, what's going on?
Hi, Glenn. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm recovering. I went to work out, so I'm like still trying to get comfortable.
Oh, are you really?
Yeah. You know how your muscles start hurting.
I get it. Whenever I'm I start sweating. Like I'll continue. Like I'll clean it all up, and then I'll keep sweating after. Like if I rush back some. So you're doing a good job there.
I'm trying. Thank you.
Yeah,
And congratulations to you. Congratulations on your newborn. I'm so excited for you.
Thank you. We were actually, so for those people who don't know, Trinita was actually supposed to come on the podcast the week the baby was born, but obviously the week the baby was born is a little bit hectic. So we pushed it back, and now she's here talking with us, which is incredible. I was very excited to chit chat with you, because before we were on Mike's podcast, and that podcast just goes any which way.
It does. Yeah. And then we just ramble, just talk. So it's cool. It's a cool conversation.
It was a cool conversation. It's like a fly on the wall. This is very similar to that. It's actually quite, no, I'm trying. It's not. I mean, it's a little bit more directed. I want to get some advice on fatherhood. You've been out here in these streets, dealing with people, I guess.
Dating fathers.
Yeah, right. Dating fathers. Yeah, exactly. What have you noticed about good fathers and the men that you dated?
It's so funny because there's a stigma, especially among Black men, but I only know good dads. Like the men in my life who are fathers, they are good fathers. And what I think contributes to that is they are very hands-on. They care about their kids. They show up for them, and they're very involved in their lives. I always thought, growing up, I saw, to be honest, I saw a lot of fathers who, really focused on working and things like that. And they weren't always present in their kids' lives. But my friends, my circle of friends, very present. And I love that. So I think we have I think this population hopefully is doing a good job.
Yeah, so two things. For a while there, I was a unicorn. I was a single Black dude with no kids. And I was out in the world getting it. And I gave up my unicorn status.
I still have my horn. I'm still single with no kids, so I get it. I totally understand. Yeah. Totally understand.
But now that I'm on the other side, I'm a parent, and I am very hands-on, like from the very beginning. As a matter of fact, I caught the kid, like that. You can't be more hands-on than catching him out of
the
womb. You know what I mean?
And I was listening to your intro, and I was like, wow, you knew this. So to me, this was something that I learned was about the sight of the baby when he's first born, that they can't see very far. So you said he's starting to track.
Yeah, he's starting to track things.
Yeah, the fact that you even realize that, that says a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm tuned in. I'm tuned in as a pop.
Very observant. That's a good thing. Yeah.
I think, and the other day we were listening to like Bon Jovi, and he, he does like all these motions, and what it is like it's their neurons are kind of like connecting, so they do all these motions. But in my mind, I was like, nah, he's rocking out. He's gonna play the guitar. He's gonna play the guitar. Look at his arms. Look how he's moving. He's up here. He's strumming the keys. Look, he just hit an E minor. Like he's that's what he's doing.
You knew the note. Oh, that's dope.
Like, look at his hands. Look at his hands. He's a prodigy. But yeah, there's a lot of things, and I'm one of those like people who I learn things. I've learned things in a very weird way. My wife definitely all into the books. She's reading, looking at them. She's threw me videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm supposed to watch the videos, and I'm like falling asleep during the videos, but I retain the knowledge. You know what I mean? So then when it's time, like I just bust out this knowledge, and she's like, "I thought you were sleeping during that." It's like that's not how my brain works.
It's osmosis. Just tell her it's osmosis.
Have you seen the video of that one kid? I don't know where it is. I think it's in like Asia or something, or Thailand or something. And he has the book open, and then he's like reading it, and he sweeps his hands over it, and then washes it up to his face.
You know, it's so I learned. It's funny that you say that, because I used to think when I was a kid that like sleeping with a book under your pillow will help you absorb the information.
Did it work?
I don't know. I don't know.
Did you fail tests? Were you?
I was a good student. Okay. I was a nerd. I actually studied sometimes, so I got through school well.
Nice. All right. Yeah. So I've been learning a lot and applying a lot of those things. And I feel like it is just kind of like a natural thing. I feel like I just kind of zeroed in as soon as it came out. I kind of just zeroed in on like, all right, here's what my best guess is at what he needs at this juncture, kind of.
I think when it comes to parenting, I think the books and the videos are awesome. Talking to other parents, really good experience. And then hands-on is really what you do every day, and you're going to learn your kid, because your child is unique and they're yours. So a lot of it's going to be, just day to day, you're going to learn something new. True. And that's just kind of how it's going to be. And you get to do this for the rest of because learning your child does not stop at 18.
Right.
Because people evolve beyond that. So as long as you're involved in your child's life, you're going to be learning about them forever. I know my parents are still learning things about me, and I'm 40. I'm in my 40s anyway. So
you have a youthful spirit. You have a very young spirit. So
thank you. I'm gonna try to hold on to that for a while.
So
it's a journey, though. It's a journey. It's a beautiful journey. It's a journey.
Right. One of the cool things that I noticed, and it's in your profile pic. You have a very sassy pose in your pro. I know we're not supposed to say that, but it is sad. You got the head tilted. You're doing a sassy thing. But one of the things that I noticed is the shirt is very cool. It says "Minding my Black-owned business." Where did you get that shirt? What's that all about?
So I can't even remember the name of the company. I'll find it and I'll let you know. But they sell Black t-shirts, for African American community. And, I had just become a CEO at that point. So I was like, this makes sense. It's me, whatever. So I bought the shirt. It made sense. And I also have this one too. It says being black is not a crime.
Oh, so, I love it.
Yeah. So I'm very much into the African American community, and I thought it was fitting for today because of what we're dealing with in the culture right now.
Yeah. Are you talking about the baby? Is that what you're?
No, I'm talking about Black men as a whole. Okay. what we're contending with in American society.
Got you. Nah, it's a worrisome thing. You know what I mean? Because I look at them, right? And right now, so sweet and so innocent, and just I know like the world that is out there waiting for him, and it's like everything feels so nice and safe right now because he's in these four walls. You know what I'm saying?
That's why you enjoy these moments. You enjoy these moments while you can, because they go fast, and they're the most precious moments that you can have, because after a while you're going to deal with the whole person and trying to navigate that.
Well, I feel like the person will be cool. I feel like, within our house, there's enough love that it'll be okay here. But it's once they go outside the world, they got to deal with other people. They got to deal with other things that are going to enact. They're going to be learning from different places, bringing different things home, bringing different traumas home that we didn't cause. You know what I mean? Like sometimes there's traumas outside of your home that are brought back into the home, and you have to be aware and be able to catch those so that you can heal them immediately. Which is great, which is another reason why I wanted to talk to you, because you deal with a lot of mental health issues or whatever and things like that. And it's I think it's a very hard thing, because a lot of
It
this stuff
is.
happens from a young age,
It
and
is.
and I just want to have enough tools in my tool belt to do this thing right,
Yeah, so the only thing, I mean, to start in that perspective, I would say that the most formational age for the kid is between 0 and 5,
Mm,
and especially 3 to 5, because that's when they're starting to learn how to engage with other people. Kids are born selfish, right? Because they
mm,
only know them. They don't even realize that you're significant except for the bonding experience they have with the parent
mhm,
and the other people that you expose them to. But then you get to that age where you have to start sharing and learning how to engage with other people. They have to learn compassion and empathy and sympathy and friendship and camaraderie and things like
mhm.
that, and learn how to socialize. The most important age for kids, I think, is between 3 and 5.
Yeah, it's interesting. My mom has written a book, which I love. I love plugging my mom's book anytime that I get a chance. She wrote a book called "Babies Raising Babies." Go ahead, out on Amazon, pick it up
I'm
right
gonna
now.
have
But
to. I will.
it's called "Babies Raising Babies," and it's kind of the story of her having a child when she was young, and just
Hmm.
the mindset that she had in raising children,
Yeah.
being a child herself. And it was very insightful. It's about my childhood, so I thought it was it's
So you're
very
in the
interesting to me. You know what I
you're
mean?
in the book. She
Well,
talks
I'm the
about
baby
you.
that she raised.
Oh,
So
okay, okay, okay. That's dope. That's
so
cool.
yeah, so I mean, I told her, I was like, Mom, you got all this great, information on how you raised us and all these, because she would tell us things when we are younger. I feel like this is something that helped me be more cognizant of the life around me,
Yeah.
of her giving us little gems as we went along in life. And I was like, wow, you have all this knowledge and interesting perspective on life. You should write a book so that when I have a kid, I'll know what to do. And then she did. She
That's
wrote
dope.
it,
That's
which is no small task. But my mom's written like 20, 27, 28, like a bunch of books.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, so she's
Okay.
she's a pretty prolific writer. She writes a lot. But that's one of the things that she said in the book, which is that by the time that they're 5, you got to have them raised by the time they're 5, because after that they're kind of the world's, you know what I mean, and they're just going to
Yeah.
be soaking up things. And of course, you parent them after that, but which you have to upload your information, your skill set, you know what I mean, all the
Yeah.
programs you want them to run. you,
Yeah.
you got to do that by the time that they're 5.
Yeah. What kind of gems do you want to pass on to your son?
I mean, right now I saw this interesting movie. It's called 9 Days. And in the movie, the guy, he's giving people the chance at life, but they have to watch all these different, things happening in life. And then he asks them, what would you do in this situation? What would you do in this situation?
Hmm.
And the thing is, he's got to decide who he's sending out in the world. And if and sometimes the people's reactions can be meek, you know what I mean, and sometimes they can be strong. And I won't give away the movie, but uh you don't want to send too many meek people out in the world. So I do want them to have compassion, but I also want them
Yeah.
to have like a certain toughness to him. I definitely
Yeah.
want him to be able to protect himself, and to protect others, but also know when, like, it's not your fight to fight,
Right.
like,
Right.
so those are kind of lessons that I like them to learn. I'd like them to learn the ways of the world, but maybe not too early, because the world is hard.
It
you
is.
know,
It is. I
and
think
yeah.
I think, phasing them in, like at their age appropriate learning phase, that's what works, I think.
Hmm.
But just making sure they're socialized and consistently socialized, because what you don't want is for them to get out there and not know what to do.
Hmm.
Um, those are the ones. It's tough.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna say, just don't shelter them to the point where they don't know how to engage with different types of people and working through different types of scenarios, because problem solving is the key to adulthood.
I
So
think that is the number one thing that I would want them to do. Like, be able to be a problem solver. I feel like it's the number one trait that I have. Problem
Mhm.
solving. Not seeing things as like an obstacle or impassable, seeing
Yeah,
as a problem or a puzzle that needs to be solved. And I think
exactly.
being able to instill that into them will behoove them. and really help. So that's kind of
Yeah.
that's one of the main things. I don't want to tell them what to think, like,
Right.
oh, you got to do
Absolutely.
this, you got to
Absolutely.
do that. This is how to live. I more so want to be like, okay, here's a problem in front of you. How are you going to solve this problem? Right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Was that the right answer? Like, we'll find. And how do you know it's the right answer? You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And
Exactly. Because even think about the fact that technology is becoming such a force in how we move through society right now. And so that means that people are like right here to each other, right? But
Mhm.
that also means that you have to be able to navigate the crisis a little bit faster because of technology. It's a speed of lightning, and we see
Mhm.
it every day with celebrities. They're combating issues with all these people. Cancel culture, that's
Yeah.
one of the biggest ones, but that's a problem that needs to be solved. But I'm talking on a high level. But if you get them ready younger, they're like, okay, I can figure this out because I've dealt with things that led me up to being able to approach the situation and
Yeah.
handle it appropriately. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I think one of the hard things is, there's this like there's a certain degree of, you know, you have the thoughts that you think and the ways that you feel,
Hmm.
and then you have the way that society wants you to think
Yep.
and wants you to feel.
Yep.
And then you have um, like people's legitimate like feelings about how you feel, you know what I mean? And all
Right.
those things are different. So it's like
Right.
if I don't agree with something, there's a legitimate like there's legit opposition to like something that I am feeling,
Right.
right? And someone might be hurt by it, but is there a way to broach it so that you can both maintain your identities and you're not harming one or the other? But then there's also the societal thing where it's like you're not supposed to think that way or you're not supposed
Right.
to do that way, and how to navigate that, because then what you have is you have like a cookie cutter society where everyone thinks the same, and then you start sliding into this whole thing where where it can be really hard. You get these societies where everyone has to do a certain thing, it's lockstep, and then you get something like Tiananmen Square where there's just one guy standing up against a bunch of tanks, and it's like the whole
Yeah.
society is all those tanks standing against you, and you're one guy like, no, isn't this great? And then other people see you like, yeah, actually I do think this is great, but no one's going to
Yeah.
speak out and say anything first. So there's
Exactly.
that part of it too.
And it's so funny that you even went in that direction because I was thinking earlier today, for whatever random reason, I had this on my mind, but I was thinking about the difference between influence and groupthink.
Mm-hmm.
So groupthink is when people just somebody throws out an idea and everyone kind of flocks to it because they think everyone else thinks that way and
Right.
because they want to be a part of the in crowd. So they think what everyone else is thinking without doing the research, without even thinking about how they actually feel about it or whether they agree with it. They just go with this mindset. But influence is different because it's where someone encourages you to think on your own terms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So you can agree with them or disagree with them, but you're allowed to do that. But whatever it is, your feelings and your thoughts are validated because they're yours. Groupthink, you're not validated if you're not thinking what everyone else is thinking. You
Right.
have to belong to the group. You have to do what everybody else is thinking. And I think for kids, that's really important because especially in a grade school, it's important because that's what that's how they become socialized. They start to see what their friends are doing and
Mhm.
seeing how their friends are behaving, and they start to follow that because either there's always somebody who leads the pack, right? They either see their friends doing it or they think it's what would impress their friends, and they have to learn. I'm not always going to impress my friends, but whatever I think and however I feel is validated because I feel this way.
Right.
You don't let somebody else take their feelings away from them just because they don't agree.
Yeah. And that's a hard part of where we are at in
Adults have a
society
hard
right
time with that.
now. Yeah. What's that?
Adults have a hard time with that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I feel like that's what people are having a hard time with now. It's like, all right, like at a certain point, people have legitimate feelings, but
Yeah.
everyone's going to shout down and say, like, "You're that's not a legitimate. That's not a legitimate." But I mean, sometimes those legitimate feelings are antithetical I'm using big words there. Pause. I want you to recognize that.
I love the word antithesis. So go ahead.
Yeah,
It's cool.
antithetical to how you feel,
Uh-huh.
and you got to like deal with that. We
Yeah.
have like freedom of speech for a reason. There's a reason
Yeah.
why it's like number one. It's like because it's very hard once society starts going one way for someone who wants to say something different to say it. So it's like the number one thing. And the more we kind of like go down this path of this nation that we have here, it becomes more apparent why the First Amendment, why being able to assemble, being able to say what you want was such an important thing in our like founding documents, right? So but from a young age, trying to teach them that, I feel like it's going to be difficult because
Yeah.
you do run into like the in crowd and think, and now it's more than the in crowd. It's like there's almost like a mob mentality on, you got to think this way, and it's whether you're on one side or the other. There's this mob mentality of you got to be with us. There's no one who's staunchly in the middle except for me.
Yeah.
And you know what it's done? It's lost me a lot of friends.
It will. As an adult, I've learned that, my thought process and the things that I do will cost relationships.
Mhm.
And I have to eventually, I hurt for those relationships. I'm on them. But at the end of the day, I have to be true to who I am. And that's what's the most important part. I can't conform to someone else's way of thinking because then I'm no longer me. I'm going to lose me. And I've done that a few times, so my experience, as an adult though, is those people are important in their own way. I'm not going to take away the significance of who they were, but they were a lesson to me to
Mhm.
always remain true to myself. And if they can't identify with who I am, and this is something that kids need to learn or understand, but it's hard. This is complicated stuff. This is adult stuff, but
Mhm.
kids learn this stuff young, and we don't always know because the communication may not, because they don't always know how to say that this is what's happening.
Yeah.
And so again, this goes back to the whole problem solving thing, being able to navigate the complications of relationships. Stay true to who you are regardless of how other people receive you or perceive you, and you'll be fine. You'll get through this. You'll be fine because the right people will show up. It's
Yeah.
just what it is at the end of the day.
You know what? You just touched on something I'm not even ready for. And me and my wife were just
Woo!
talking about it. Like he's gonna get into a relationship, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
that's a whole other
Why are
subset of
parents
things.
afraid of their kids being in relationships though?
Because of
What
what
is
you were just talking about. Because once that whatever that thing is, that little spark, that little love, that little tingle, that thing will make you do some crazy ish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it
And I'm
does.
just hoping, I want him to be strong enough I want
Yeah.
him to be the one who's giving out the tingle as opposed to the one who's receiving the tingle and acting wild. You know
I
what I
saw a
mean?
meme. Yeah, I saw a meme and it says, I'm raising my son to make sure your daughter remains safe when she's with him.
Right.
I think that's important. So you raise them to create the or cultivate the relationship that you want them to have. So they're not always responding, but they're creating the trend, right?
Mhm.
So they're not always responding to somebody else's behavior. They're creating the mood, the
Absolutely.
mindset. So as long as they're in charge of their feelings and they're responsible for their being and what they do, you don't have to worry about how they respond to other people in relationships, because heartbreak is going to come. It is a natural part of life. It happens in friendships, it happens in relationships, it happens in families. You just have to be, again, navigating those dynamics. You just got to be able to do it. But as long as they're true to who they are,
Mhm.
they'll be fine.
I hope
And
that's cool.
I don't think you should fear your kid being in a relationship when they're ready for it.
I don't fear it. It's just
Hmm.
like that thing of like, oh man, that like I know it's going to happen.
You don't want
And-
the moms, the daughters who's using your kid for whatever their resources. But you know what's so funny? I have my. We're not talking about that today, so we're not gonna get into
Oh
that.
no,
But
wait, what are we talking about? Hold on, no, because this is unfiltered
I was thinking,
conversations. We just
I was,
going wherever.
I was thinking about how like some people perceive marriage as a as stability and resource. right? So that they can create their own generational wealth or create stability for themselves and have families. They don't necessarily need to be friends with their partner. I don't believe that. I don't sign up for that, but I know people do. A lot of people do. That's how these relationships are happening.
Oh,
So how you your relationship with your spouse and your partner is how they'll start to see how their relationship should be, and that's what they'll pursue as they become older. So that's why it's
okay.
so important, you know what I mean?
Well,
So I'll just say it like that.
hopefully, because right now things are great. I'm always like a knock on wood type of person because
Hmm.
I'm always thinking the other shoe is about to drop, and so is
Hmm.
she. You know what I mean? It's like when you've been through things in life, you're always like nervous about like, oh, some craziness is going to happen. But knock on wood, everything is fine. We're in a very loving relationship, and I think that is what he is going to see, and that's what he's going to take away
So
from.
I don't know your wife, but your energy projects that you're happy and you're in a good space in your life, and
Yeah.
I like. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, I'm also a very good actor. So no,
I'm not
if
gonna
you
tell her you
need
said
someone
that.
for a role, no,
I'm not gonna tell her you said that.
no, I'm just joking. No, I love my wife very much, and she loves me
Yeah,
very much, and
yeah,
we're very happy. And I think that we still have the love for each other, and but we also have an equal amount of love for the child. It's not one of those things where people have a child and like they transfer the love that they have for each other onto the child, and that
yeah.
leaves no love for those
Each
two
other.
people.
Yeah,
And we haven't done that. Like we
yeah.
still, care about each other and talk to each
That's a good
other.
thing.
And I was just telling her how dope she was today, because she is. And I think that having that and then looking at him and he's another entity, you know, um,
He's
that's cool.
he's he's you two combined. Like
Yeah,
he's literally the two of you
literal.
connected. So
Scientifically,
yeah,
he's the
yeah,
two of us combined.
yeah, absolutely.
So I think it's, I think it's up. I mean, the thing that I have figured out as I've gotten older, and I feel like some people don't realize this, and it can harm relationships, is that love, my capacity for love is infinite, right? Like I have that capacity. Some people feel
Me
like,
too.
oh, I gave you all my love and now I don't have any more to give, and I'm upset because I spent this time in a relationship with you and I exhausted that amount of love for you and now I don't have enough
Yeah,
left. And in my mind, and when dating kind of started turning around for me is when I just said I have an infinite amount of love for people, and if the relationship ends, I leave it where it is, and you know what I mean, just keep it moving. But it's a hard thing to do. It took a lot of soul searching to get to that point.
limiting love is a trauma response
Mm,
because true love is truly infinite. It doesn't end, it doesn't go away, it doesn't stop just because the relationship ends. It doesn't, that's not real. It's not even, it's not authentic, right? True love surpasses all all things.
mm,
I am a very spiritual person, so I believe, I believe that God is love. So I feel like as long as he's infinite, so is love. And it exists in that capacity.
mhm,
However,
mm,
what I'm going to deal with in a relationship is a different story. But that doesn't mean that the love ends. And that's why it becomes painful. And that's why it becomes traumatic. And that's why there's a trauma response. Love stops here because I can't love you beyond this point because I don't want to hurt. That's where that comes from.
yeah,
So I totally get what you're saying. Yeah, but
yeah.
you're in a good space. You're in a good mental, a healthy space. If you can say that my love is still infinite, you are a healthy person in my mind because you understand that.
Well,
Does that
thank
make
you.
sense? Yeah.
It took a lot of nights crying to Adele, crying to Pink, crying to Taylor Swift, smoking hookah by myself.
I have stories, so I get it.
Yeah, I'm sure,
I have
you know.
stories.
So it took a lot of, but it
Yeah,
does take a lot of inward looking to get to that point and to
yeah,
realize that. And the funny thing though is when you have that and then you're dating, people don't understand that because they don't have love for themselves. So they're like, what? Like if and people act really weird. It's like I want to break up with this person, so I'm gonna do this weird stuff and I'm like, no, you could keep it moving. It's cool. Like if you're done, then we can be done. Like I will be
yeah,
sad. I will be mourning about the thing, but we can move along, but I feel like there's a lot of people out there who don't have mature responses like that. So then people are like, well, I got to do this weird thing. And a lot of times cheating, I feel like, comes from that too. It's like, it's almost like a response to, not having the connection with the person. So, finding it while you haven't severed the connection. I was always like, listen, I'm just going to go ahead and end this and then, move on. And if I need to get back with you, then I'll reconnect. You know what I'm saying? So
I think you're right in a lot of ways. I think you're absolutely right. I think that because I'm still dating, right? So I was enjoying my singleness for a while. I'm dating in the sense that I'm actually looking for a relationship now. But before, it took me some years to even get there because at first I wanted to be single so I could enjoy myself and get to know me. And I had to do the work. So even on my podcast, I talk about how I have to get in my mirror and have the real raw conversation with myself and check me because this is who's going out into the world and I'm bringing that energy back. So this is my safe haven. My home is this is my place, right? So I have to keep it safe. So I have to protect the energy. That means I have to do the work here, right?
yeah.
So that's why that is because
So you were doing
you
your
keep
Issa
that.
Rae in the mirror. You were doing your Issa Rae in the
Yes,
mirror.
yes, because it's important. If I don't do the work here, then I can't have a healthy relationship. So now that I'm ready for it, but there are a lot of trauma responding people out there, and I have to make sure that that isn't in my relationship. Does that make sense? But it's really
Yeah.
hard to sift through people nowadays because we are all hurt, and from that we're bitter, scorned, and retaliatory, and we inflict that pain from someone else onto the next person. Now I realize I ain't do it, and
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I ain't do it, but so many times before I move on.
Like, it's interesting having those arguments with people. Like, have you ever had an argument with somebody and they start saying things that are like, you're like, they're arguing another argument that they used to have, or with their parent, or it's whatever, and you're just like, but that I never did that. That was never a thing. And they're like, da, 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 da. They keep going with it, and it's like, oh,
I've had
um,
those arguments. Yes, like
so,
no, I can't. I'm not doing that.
yeah, it's I don't know, man. I in my dating life, I feel like I found a happy medium where dating had, be started to be fun. You know what? It's
Yes.
crazy. Dating had started to be fun, and then I met my wife, and now I'm off the market. I'm like, oh man, I just figured out this game. I was having fun,
The
but
funny
I
thing about
think
it
that's the
is,
whole point. You know
that's
what
what I
I
was gonna
mean?
say. That's what I was gonna say. Dating is fun. Dating is absolutely fun because you get to meet all these people. You can have all these experiences. Even the bad experiences later on down the road can become funny stories
Oh yeah,
if you play it right. You know what I mean?
yes.
Some of them are dumb. I do have stupid stories like how the hell did I let that happen? But anyways, the but once you find that person, once you're because you give me the open energy type, right? So you're self-aware. This is the energy you give me, that you're self-aware and you're completely okay with who you are. That makes the person who is looking at you receive you that same way. I
Hmm.
think that works. That's what's supposed to happen.
Hmm.
That's what we want to happen, right? And so I feel like if you're going into the dating game with the right intentions and you're getting rid of the people that don't fit at the right amount at the right pace, the right person is going to show up at the right time. It's not going to. It shouldn't take long for that to happen. I don't think.
It is so true, and that is what happened to me. The right person
Yeah.
showed up,
If you're
and
dating, yeah, if you're dating with
yeah,
intention, you don't keep people who don't fit around very long.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, and that was the thing. It was like I would you know, and it would be hard because sometimes it's like, when are you being too picky, and when are you making the right choice to like cut like someone off or in that relationship? It's a very difficult thing, but I feel like it'll stick when it's
Yeah.
supposed to stick.
Yeah. So like I think I'm picky, but I'm rightfully picky because I've been through the bad shit, right? I've been through the hard stuff. I've been hurt. I've been in the relationships that shouldn't have happened. I've learned those lessons. I've been in good relationships too that just didn't work out. Good people that we just different paths. I've seen all of it, right? So I feel like at some point, it just works itself out. I just feel
Yeah.
like it works itself out if you pay attention. Because I know people who date weird. How did we get on dating? Like, why is this what we're talking
I
about?
know it is so odd. I don't know. I
Maybe
don't know.
it's
You
my
did it.
singleness that I was gonna say maybe it's my singleness. But anyways,
Here's what I'm thinking about is dating outside of your race, because he is going to be a mixed race child.
my best friend
And
is like that. Yeah.
yeah. So are you mixed race? Because
I am, yes, I am. But second generation. So like
okay.
my mom is mixed race, and then so she's black and mixed, and then my father's black
Oh, okay.
because my grandparents are different races. Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Native
Absolutely makes
American
sense.
and yeah, it's a
Yeah. So
combination up
so
there.
he's going to be out here in the world, and the thing is, I feel like that's going to be tough, because that is not a mindset, or that's not a knowledge set that I have in terms of how to navigate the world like that. You
You
know
mean as a biracial?
exactly. Yeah.
So I will say this: the world will tell your son that he's black.
I'm gonna tell my son he's black.
Right.
Fuck
And
the
you're going to end
world.
up raising him. Yeah, you're going to raise him. But I've seen biracial who are black and white and their parents allow them to be black and white. It doesn't really work like that.
Mm-mm.
They're going to at some point, based on the culture that they grew up in, like around here it's mostly black people.
Mhm.
Or it's a heavily black population. But if they relate to white people, they might say, you know what, I'm more white than, whatever. But because you're black, because there's a black parent, the world is going to recognize your son as black. And because he lives in a predominantly black area, he's going to probably
Well,
identify as a black man.
well, we live in a predominantly white area,
Okay,
right?
okay,
And then I was a
okay.
military kid, so
It's not going to matter.
yeah, well, when I grew up,
It's not,
it was weird, because when I grew up in like California for a large
mhm,
portion of time. So there it's very diverse. You know what I mean?
yeah.
You have a lot of different races, everything mixing. And then you come to, Virginia, which is where I am now,
Okay,
predominantly
okay.
white.
That makes sense.
And
Okay.
it's a little bit different. Definitely a culture shock. Everybody's a lot more cliquish. People kind of stay with their thing. And then if you don't, then you get like labeled as like certain things. So it's so weird, because here it'll be like, oh, you black, but you act white. And I was just I never even subscribed to that, because I just rock with who's cool. Like I feel like I rock with energy. So I have a lot of Asian friends. I have a lot of
That's what you
um
should do.
yeah. That's how
That's what
I
you
feel
should
like
do.
that's a healthy person. That's a healthy way of living.
It absolutely is. To be fair, it is. But theoretically, like the way this world works, it doesn't always work that way. They do make you choose, and even if your son chooses one culture over another, you still have to deal with the phenomenon of being black, driving while black,
Mm-hmm.
uh, drinking while black, uh,
Everything.
shopping while black,
Yeah.
you know,
I
and
mean, I definitely am going to have to introduce him to some of those situations to ensure that he has a very well-rounded sense of problem solving, because the problems that you have to solve,
that's somewhat why
it's
I
like a
mentioned that
different.
earlier because
Yeah.
it's the phenomenon for a black man is much different than what a lot of us are used to. Even as a black woman, I can't relate to how black men are surviving this world because truth be told, your numbers are really low when it comes to age and survival,
Mhm.
and so our struggle and our fight right now is to keep our black men healthy and living and thriving and succeeding and helping them understand that they have the right to live too, because we have to fight, and not only are we fighting each other to realize this, but we're also fighting everyone else, because for some reason people say that once you have that black man title, that you're not allowed to survive the way we are. And I
Mhm.
think that's unfortunate, and it needs to change. And we need to keep that fight up. That's where Black Lives Matter came from in the first place. Now, of course, black women are involved in that, but that it really was centered around saving our black men because that's who's at most risk. um, I think when I listen to the younger generations and I listen to how they talk and the way they think, how they vote, it's changing. Our times are changing. They're definitely happening, but the pace is so slow. And those other people, I'm sorry, but the older people, they need to die off and stop saying the things that they're saying and creating the mindset of what they're of whatever they're saying, so that our people can survive. And I think younger people have a better opportunity to do that because younger people are more tolerant of
Mm-hmm.
diversity. It's just what it is right now.
Yeah.
Um, our generation and younger, we're just more tolerant um of different.
Well, I feel like we're tolerant. The younger generation is definitely tolerant of people diversity in terms of physicalness, looks, but diversity of thought, I feel like, is becoming more and more of a problem. So,
What do you mean?
I mean, if you have an idea that runs counter to what we were talking about at the beginning,
Oh yeah,
the group think,
yeah.
they're having a problem with that. You know what I mean? And you see it where,
Technology is the reason why that's
yeah,
happening.
I mean,
Technology.
I feel like that is, but it's hard when like someone who's coming to say something that is controversial, right? And then they'll like the youth wants to kind of shout them out and say no, deplatform and all this other stuff, not realizing that where that leads to is a very dark place.
Yeah,
You know what I
I
mean?
think.
And I think the thing that I would like to see is
Yeah,
being able to have enough thought, intelligence, enough strength to be able to face down those terrible things that are being said and fight them with intellectuality
yeah,
and combat them that way. Like, let
yeah,
that terrible idea be out there, because if it's bad, it's going to die when it faces
yeah,
a rival concept. That's
yeah.
the way of the world. But when you shut things out, then all of a sudden people are in the shadows, and all this other stuff happens, and you really could have a terrible society when you have that. But I don't know that people see that, because they
It's
feel like they're right, and they are closer to right, I think, to wrong. But the tactic going about that, I think, could be very detrimental to society in the long run. So I feel like you froze up for a second here, but yeah, oh, did you froze up for a second? Are you back?
you froze.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Oh, you
You
froze.
froze, so I didn't hear some of that.
Oh no, you froze. I was just saying, like, I think we need to be able to combat ideas with
Yeah.
better ideas, and that's the way to win, as opposed to like shouting people and saying take away this platform and stop people from talking.
You know, it's so funny that you say that because I was listening, a lot of the controversy that's happening right now with the baby, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he made a comment. I think his publicist may have been who put this up, but who cares? It represented him and it matters. He said, you guys on social media move so fast that you don't allow us the opportunity to learn, to grow, and to educate. And I thought there was so much validity in that comment
Mm-hmm.
because it speaks directly to what you're just saying. We don't, we want everybody to think, because again, it goes back to what we were saying earlier anyway. If you disagree with me, you're invalidating my thought.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why I have to refute what you're saying because it's not okay. Now, I could talk about the dangers of what he said or whatever, but I'm not. My point is everybody's entitled to their opinion and everybody's entitled to grow at their own rate. But again, technology doesn't afford you the opportunity to do so because cancel culture is so heavy right now, it's so prevalent right now. And I mean, truth be told, it's a mean girl mentality in social
Mm-hmm.
media, and that's not okay. So what that says is that it's happening in the school system where we can't see it with bullying, right? And it's happening in social media where we can't see it at a larger scale. But what's happening here at the largest scale, when it happens here, you got to catch it here.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta squash it when it's at the smaller space, like in the schools and stuff like that. And for some reason, I've seen plenty of cases where teachers and administrators and or whomever works in schools aren't as efficient at identifying bullying as a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a problem. And so I think that speaks to a lot of what you were just talking about.
Yeah, I've read this before, and I'm sure people will be upset about the way that it sounds, but I think it's very true. We're very adept at identifying male violence, which is physical violence, harm to others, aggressiveness and whatnot,
Hmm.
but we're not as good at identifying female violence. And female violence
The
is what
bullying and yeah,
is the mean girl thing that you're talking
yeah.
about, and that's what we're seeing now, and it's getting very, very prevalent.
Hmm.
The grouping up together, because that is just how
That's what
that's
girls.
just that's just how they get down. You know what I'm saying? And that's what it
Yeah,
is now. We're not seeing that there's a crescendo, like it's getting more and more of that. And at the outset, it's like, yeah, there is a need to stop some of this male violence, and but it's led to where we are now, which is a
yeah,
prevalence of female violence. And
yeah.
I believe what I was reading was something like the reason was because the thought is, if you could take out male violence, you could end war, and you could end wars happening. If you take out the toxic masculinity, if you take out the fighting, the bullying, all that type of stuff, you could end war and whatnot. But what's happened is it's switched to this other thing where it's almost like online guerrilla warfare. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
there's no one person that you're fighting against. There's no one person that you have to apologize to. It's just this hodgepodge of people coming after you, and then they all glom on, and then other people are like, oh well, I don't want to be associated. It's just a weird
it's
kind of
so
where we
it's
are.
so funny that because we're actually taking this in a whole different, because my thought process about this, and I don't want to go too far down that rabbit hole, but when you're saying about ending war, is one of the reasons why they say they don't want women as presidents.
Mhm.
It's one of the reasons why Obama said he did want more feminine feminine leadership, because this bullshit that happens with the fighting and stuff would cease, or it would diminish, because we don't handle fighting that way. But if you think about it, there's another reason why it makes sense,
Mhm.
because again, I take it back to technology and the cyberbullying that's happening. We're good at that.
Yeah,
That's our lane.
yeah, that's
And
the
with
language.
the Space Force and all that stuff happening, that's all happening because everything is happening in technologies now. The
Mhm.
fight is inside cybersecurity. And not to get into the DoD and all that other stuff, but that's why the language is, women are better at words. And if they're fighting with words, then bring us in, because that's our TKO. Men, they're y'all fists and guns. That's what I do, but we use words. And if the fighting is here, we can stop it as well. So it may be a more peaceful nation in terms of weaponry, but we'll take it to the cyber streets, and we can
Mm.
handle it. We can handle it better there.
But I think
I
that is
think
true.
so.
I think that is true, right? And then you have to bring the women in, but you're definitely going to have to bring the men back, because we're the only ones who can make up. Because y'all don't make up. Y'all. If there's a war, it's like beef, and then that's it. That's it. It's
Yeah, because
done
I have dated some friendships, because I'm like, what we're not going to do is go back,
forever.
because you told me where you were, so we dead. And but guys, they forgive and forget, like,
Yeah,
and move
there's
on.
far less peace
Y'all are
treaties.
forgiving, yeah. So yeah, but that's the balance, that's why the yin and the yang work so well. The men and the women, we work, so we need each other, and that's why we have to preserve our black men. Like, why are we can't we can't lose y'all. We have to
Thank
protect
you.
y'all, because y'all are a force just like we are. It's not we're not competition to each other. We should be growing together, and we should be growing collectively and supporting each other. Men should be protecting and defending women, and women should be protecting and defending men. That's
That's
how I feel about it.
I totally agree, and I'm there, and I've constantly, you know, I try to protect, of course, my black women. I try to protect them, although I always get talked about because my wife is white. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And so
How does
it's like, oh, but I still can protect. But I feel like the
how do you
thing that
about how
happened is, oh,
How
go
do you
ahead.
feel about the conversation about and I guess this is a tough question, but how do you feel about the conversation about you can't be that pro-black if you're married to a white person?
I think it's untrue, because I think love is love, just like everything else that we're seeing.
Hmm.
Love is love. You know what I mean? And once you understand that, I feel like it's a lot easier to protect. I think the very first thing, and this kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is the very first thing is you have to be able to love self, right? And once you love
Absolutely.
yourself, then you can love you can love your family more, and then you can love your tribe, and then on out and out, right? And then, but what with that love, it doesn't like, fall back. I feel like when people have that thing of like they don't date their race or whatever, there's one of those steps that didn't happen, and usually it's the first step, which is self-love, and you
Yeah.
don't have that. So I mean,
Yeah.
I am extremely happy with the person that I married, but it's not like I would have not been able to love someone who is my same race. That could have happened. It didn't happen. It could have happened. I would have welcomed it to happen. Although
Mhm.
I was corny, and I've been corny for a long time, and corny dudes did not come into style until 2012. Thank you, Donald Glover. So
That's probably
that's
true.
what it is.
Yeah.
It just happened to be that what I was attracting is what I attracted, and it wasn't necessarily
It's so
that.
funny that it's so funny that you say that, and because I don't know that you're corny, but okay. But I
I
will
used to be.
say,
I'm a lot cooler now.
I
I'm
think
very
you're,
smooth
I
now.
think you're fine. But I will say that it is the corny person who ends up or tends to step outside of their race, or
Mhm.
who the person who self-identifies as corny because they're not accepted within their peer group, so they have to go beyond their peer group, and a lot of times that means they're going beyond either their race or their age group.
Right.
So
Or their ethnicity or whatever. You know what I
or
mean?
even
There's,
or their gender preference.
there's
I've
that.
seen that happen to I've seen that happen too. Not saying that, that's the only way that happens, but it has. And, I think that goes back to what we were saying earlier about validation. Nobody should have to validate you if you can do it for yourself. But the truth of the matter is, validation is external as well as internal. That is the truth. And I can't stand when I hear people say, as long as you accept yourself, then that's all that. But because that's not true. We need to. I think what we need though is more tolerance of different. Be intolerant of wrong, right? Be intolerant of wrong. You correct the wrongs, but understand the difference between different and wrong. Because just
Mhm.
because you don't agree doesn't make that person wrong. It just makes you different, and that should be okay. And I
Right.
think that, I think that needs to be a conversation. And then back to what we're talking about, that happens at a young age. That
Mhm.
happens because we as adults teach kids how to accept or tolerate different or wrong. We're the ones who say, well, this is how you navigate this situation, or this is how you accept this situation, or this is how you can't allow someone to make you feel a certain way. But at the same time, you you it there I mean, I guess what I'm saying is kind of complicated because at the same time, you still corny.
That's Gabby said, still corny. Thank you very much.
I guess maybe, but corny's cool. Corny's okay. I think, I could be corny. I don't know. Maybe that's why I don't notice it. I don't know.
I
But,
think corny is different.
I don't know.
You're
It's just
just wait,
complicated.
but I've always been
Yeah.
different and been cool with being. I think that's the one thing people said. I've always been very cool with being myself. And I think that's because I got a lot of love when I was younger, and people told me I was dope, and I just like, oh, okay, well, that's what I agree with you, and I just live
And
that way.
and again, that's fitting inside your peer group. And you're saying that you were different to your peer group. So
Hmm.
because you're different to your peer group, you end up in a relationship that doesn't look like your peer group.
Hmm.
But that doesn't make it, again, there's nothing wrong with that. We have to be more accepting and more tolerant of that. People, younger generations tend to be more tolerant of what this looks like now anyways, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. I'm with it. All right. So great conversation. We got on the dating somehow. I don't understand. So here we do have the blurting question, which we have
Okay.
now switched it up. And our blurting question now is, what do you nerd out about? Like, what is something that you're really into that you could cite me chapter and verse about? What do you nerd out about?
You're asking me to
I'm
answer
asking
that question?
you.
I am the nerd. So I have a shirt that says Black and Nerdy. Just goes to let you know. Um, so I am really big on like crime shows,
Ooh.
like crime TV, NCIS, criminal law, Criminal Minds, cop shows,
Okay.
Chicago PD, all that stuff. I have a degree in justice studies, so I have an infinite passion for law and order. Law and Order, SVU is one of my shows.
Mm,
So anything going into that, that's my nerd space.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. See, I used to watch all those shows, procedurals. So you like the procedurals? Do you like the reality TV ones, like the First 48 and all that?
Some of them, yeah, like Dateline and things like that. I can
Mhm.
watch those, but not all, not all of them. They have to. I have to be entertained by them. So I like the crime TV, the dramas. But yeah,
I don't, you know,
that's where
I
I
never understood because my parents, they'll watch that stuff all day, and I'm like, are y'all
because
plotting
they come.
against each other? Like what?
No, because they come on all day.
Yeah,
That's
they
on
do.
TV all day. It's like
Like
it's
all
my
you
heaven.
see all day is people killing each other and like how they try to get away with it. I'm like, are y'all what
So
is that? Are
listen,
y'all cramming? What's going on?
so listen, that's the funny part. So I get so wrapped up in my TV shows, right? And like everybody's watching Housewives of Atlanta or whatever. I watch the criminal shows. But to get my mind away from that because it can get serious, I watch Big Bang Theory.
Oh, really?
Big
Okay.
Bang, Big Bang Theory is a total nerd show. Like they are
Mhm.
super smart nerds and they're very sarcastic and a super funny cast. The show is over now, but I still watch the reruns. And they're smart on another level. Like they're smart on an insane level. But I don't get the intelligent stuff that they say, but I get the comedy, and it's funny to me, and I that's my nerd. Yes.
Okay. Have you ever watched Silicon Valley?
No.
It's on
Okay.
HBO, but it's
Okay.
also a nerd show. It's about like a
Okay.
startup, like one of these
Mhm.
startup joints. And I love that show. I think
I'll
it's
have to check it out. That makes sense. As the start of Silicon Valley.
yeah,
I have to
Silicon
check it out.
Valley. It's got like 4 or 5 seasons now.
Okay.
It's about like a startup, like someone starting one of these startup tech companies out of his
Hmm.
garage, and trying to get the funding and seeing it grow and
Hmm.
all these different things. So it's really interesting to see how that how that has taken shape over the course of 5 seasons.
Is that where you nerd out? Is in
I
that
nerd
show? Is
out
something?
on oh man, listen, I nerd out on a lot of things. I used to nerd out on video
Okay.
games. I was heavy gamer, incredibly heavy gamer. And then I stopped doing that as much. And then I started I started going to Comic Cons and whatnot. So I started
Oh,
doing that on
seriously.
that.
See,
So
they
I
do that on the Big Bang Theory. That's you
yes.
need to watch the
Yeah.
show.
No, I mean, I've seen the show. Listen, The Big Bang Theory is not. The level of nerd they are. I'm like, I'm higher than that. Like I'm different.
You think so?
I'm more nerdy than that. I understand everything that they're talking about. That's why I get because it's like one of these things where like they'll say something and I'll be like, I'm like, you're saying the common thought of that. You know what I mean? Like I would
Well,
be on there and challenge some of them. I
I
might be
don't get it
wrong,
because
but
I'm not a science person, but I guess as a science person, that makes sense. It's the common thought. Because why would they get? I don't think they would get too technical. But oh my gosh, I love that show.
yeah,
Maybe
I
that
mean,
is my nerd.
the times that I have watched the show and I've heard them talk about something nerdy on there, it's
Mhm.
been something that I have some degree of knowledge about.
Are you serious?
Yeah, so listen. I use the word antithetical. You know what I'm saying?
But
Like I
I
could be
love
up
the word.
on that show.
You know what's so funny that you did right, and you mentioned it. That was antithesis was the first big word that I ever learned, so I never forgot it. When
Are you
I
serious?
I kid you. And when I learned what that word meant, I was like, "You are the antithesis of me. This is not okay." So I ran that word to the ground. Yeah,
Oh my goodness.
yeah. That's nerdy if you can like a word so much that you have to figure out how to use it in a sentence.
Yeah, I was all about words back in the day. Again, my mom's a writer.
Yeah,
I used to like, and I write too.
yeah. Me too. Me too.
I need to write more. I haven't been writing as much now that the baby is here or
Yeah,
whatever. But that's
I
the
write too, so I totally get it, and I need to
yeah.
get
So
back
what do you
into it
got
as well.
going on in your life now? What's interesting? What's happening?
Uh,
What can we?
So I have the podcast, of course. I'm starting a new one.
Oh,
I have
okay.
another one coming up, and hopefully in about a month or so that'll be unraveling. I'm excited about it.
It'll be unraveling.
Um,
I think
I
that. What do
have
you mean unraveling?
yes, well, not unraveling, but launching. I guess that's a better word because I'm rolling out my plans now. So
I got you.
as you roll out, it unravels, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and I still have my other podcast. So That's still on hiatus, so we're still trying to figure out how we're going to map that out for the next season. I'm getting ready to do a fashion show, so I'm going to get into some modeling.
Oh, what?
And yeah, I think I can handle it at 42 years old, getting into modeling, right?
You gonna
Um,
get on the catwalk?
yes, I can't wait. I'm so excited. This will be I haven't done too many, but I have done a couple. So this will be probably my third one, I think, in my life. So this is just it's just gonna be fun.
I did a
Um,
fashion show back in college. Like
yeah,
I
that's what I did.
edited a fashion show and then
Oh, did you?
gave it out to people.
Oh no,
Um,
I and see I can't dance, right? So I hope they don't have me doing any dance moves that require a beat because it's not gonna happen.
I think you just
Um,
have to strut if you're a model.
yeah,
They
hopefully
don't
that's
want
all they do.
models doing too many things. They just walk and be sassy and then turn and then that's your
With the fashion show that I was in before, I had to do a few extra steps. I was like, yeah, I'm not really sure that makes sense if y'all want me to do that. So I don't know, we'll see. But anyways, it's gonna be fun. I'm looking forward to it. It's in
When is it?
October. It's in October. October 29th, I think is the date. I have to check.
Do you
But I
need
think
any
yeah, October
zaddies?
29th.
You need a zaddy?
You said what?
You need a zaddy?
What is Zaddy?
That's me. That's like a daddy, sexy daddy.
Oh, I didn't even know. See, sure, sure, okay. Um, and then I have a couple other projects that I'm working on right now with some other people. So hopefully those things will. I always have something in the lab, or we always got something
I
cooking.
love it.
So yeah, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited.
I,
Excited.
I love it. Yeah, tell me
Yeah.
about your podcast though, the one that you guys that's on hiatus right now.
So FlyyLytical Podcast is my co co my so ah my business is called Free to Fly Enterprises. And a part of that, we use the FlyyLytical podcast as our kind of gateway into the community. And what we really want to focus on is empowering women and social and cultural conversations, right? So that's really what we talked about. And we were really hot and heavy during the election season. So we got into politics a little bit as well. But we were really trying to focus on um, positivity and optimism and lifting up our Black women. But that also means lifting up our Black men as well. I don't forget about the Black man just because my focus is on Black women, because I think we have to do this as, collectively.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really what the podcast was about. We'll be starting season 4. We've done, yeah, we just completed season 3 back in April. So we're going to be starting season 4 when we get back.
Oh, that's pretty
Yeah.
exciting.
So the next one that I'm going to do, that's mine, is more geared towards me and who I am. So you could see Trinita, and how I see society and culture, like period. So it's going
Mm.
to be more than just empowering Black women. It's literally how I feel about society, and the things that are happening, you know, uh, as we go, um, including food, health, and things like that. Because I'm really big on health and good food. So you'll see some of that in there
Wait,
as
are you gonna
well.
be cooking?
No, I don't. I cook, but not that type of cooking that I'm looking for. What I'm really trying to do is get into some of the local restaurants,
Oh, okay.
that are coming up. Because DC has so many new restaurants, and there's always a new one popping up. So
Mm-hmm.
that's really where my focus is going to be,
Wait,
brunches and things like that.
wait. What do you say when you're talking about cooking? You don't cook like that. What does that mean?
I'm talking about the good chef type cooking. That's the type of food that I want to talk about. Like healthy food that is in the air. Because, when you go to like restaurants, because I brunch a lot. That's my thing. I brunch on
Mm.
Sundays. And that's why COVID was so bad for me, because I couldn't get to the good food. They stopped the good brunches. But now that they're back up, this
Have
is
you
a good.
noticed the food doesn't? I feel like the food doesn't taste as good during brunches. You know why? I feel like people are cooking with fear. It's not. They're not. There's not a lot of love in the kitchen. Everyone's cooking with
I,
fear because everyone's so
there,
afraid.
there's some truth to that. There are some really good restaurants out there now. Um, and some of my favorite restaurants are coming, they're spinning back up. But you're right, their menus became limited. So they had a shorter staff. They had a shorter, they didn't just have less, they had less cooks, they had less servers. And because of that, they had less capacity to handle certain menus. So
Mm-hmm.
we did see a lot of that. And plus, food costs went up.
Mm-hmm.
So it made it more complicated. So we got to factor in all of those things. Those things matter. But now that COVID is, go like it's tapering, or leveling out, I
Mm-hmm.
think people are getting used to moving
Unraveling,
around.
if you will.
Yeah, people are getting used to moving through COVID. They're being able to hire staff again, and the food is back up and popping. Because I've been to a couple places already. I'm like, yes, I can't wait to talk about these places. So
Mm,
it's good, you know. And I think the podcast is going to be a good place, good opportunity to do that.
that sounds.
So
What's the new one going to be called?
if you know anybody who's willing to sponsor any restaurants, let me know. Put me in touch. Put me down. 'Cause I'm still looking for some.
I have a good friend. He's a chef, and also a comedian.
I do
Uh,
chefs too. Like
yeah,
I'll be looking at chefs as well because I know some. So put me on.
yeah.
You say
I'll
he's a
let you know.
comedian?
Yeah, he's a comedian, Jordan
Okay.
Sebue. He has a lot of rooms over at DC, but
Okay.
he's an excellent cook.
Okay.
And at first I was like, man, I get down in the kitchen, and I was like going to challenge him, but then he started putting out, like, over the quarantine, he started putting out video after video of the things he was cooking. And I was like, you know what? I'm a big enough man to admit when I'm not the man like that. You know what I mean? Like, he's over here looking like LeBron, and I am definitely more of a Embiid, like, not my cooking's a process, right?
That's funny.
And it doesn't get the championship every
Yeah,
year.
listen.
And you might get hurt if you eat it every now and then.
Yeah, I have to pray before I eat my food. Like I cook well. I cook well enough for me. I don't
Mhm.
know how other people feel about it because I'm the only person who eats my cooking for real. Other people have, but I don't know if they're always being nice. And I've had some hit or misses. So we'll see. I don't know. But anyways, that's one reason why I like the restaurants. But I cook a lot, because it makes sense. But on the weekends, I like to brunch. I like
Mm.
to go out. So that's what I do. It's a pastime.
Yeah.
A part of my budget is eating out.
You know what? I can't wait till everything is lifted and we're able to go get some brunch together.
We'll have to do that. Yeah. Grab Mike and go. Yeah, I'm beefing with him.
Are you really?
Yeah.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Not a real beef. It's not. I love him.
I
That's
know.
my guy. That's my friend. So I'm just messing.
That is my buddy. Hey, tell the people where they can find you at if they wanted to follow you, if they wanted to get more information about your upcoming podcast, or if they wanted to holler at you. You know what I mean? Because you put it out there, you're dating, you're
Hit my
still single. If they
DMs.
want to holler,
Yes, I am
they want to
dating.
slide in
So,
the DMs, give them that info.
so my public personal page is 3.nita. 3 the number 3.nita, and my podcast is the FlyyLytical Podcast. It's FL2YSLYTICAL podcast, and that is on IG as well. So that's where you can
Mm.
find me.
Okay, hold on. Let me
Yeah,
let me put that in the thing. FlyyLytical.
yeah. That's FL2YSLYTICAL.
Oh, the only thing that came up was uh NPR.
Oh, I don't know. But it's on the podcast itself is on all major platforms. So wherever you listen to your podcast, you'll
Ooh,
find us there.
love it. I can't wait to check it out, to see
Thank
it
you.
again. I hope that I'm on there if y'all are talking about some interesting stuff like
I
politics.
One of my shows, you're definitely going to be a guest. I'm lining you up now. I'm just trying to think like what are we going to do, but we can definitely have the conversation because I don't know when. I'm not going to lie. I don't know when we're going to. Hopefully we do it soon. Get our podcast back up and going. But the new one is coming very very soon.
What's the new one going to be? What's the
So that's the one I was just telling you about with the food and all that stuff. But I also
uh
about the cultural and the social. From my perspective, I'm still developing that one. So that's why it doesn't sound like I'm making sense. But it's me. It's me on the podcast. I've had my
okay.
own podcast once before, and so then when I started my business, we started another one, and I stopped that one. So basically, I'm bringing my old one back, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to have a different format.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. All right. All right. All right. Well, that makes sense. All of that. I'm gonna see if I can put in here the FlyyLytical podcast and see, just so people can see what's going on with you. See, there it is, just like
Thank
that, right?
you. Yes, that's it.
The Flyy, FLYY. What's the second Y for?
Well,
So
the
fly. You need two Y's.
yeah, free to fly is spelled with two Y's. So I spelled FlyyLytical with two Y's.
There we go. All right. Free to fly. If I need some airline tickets, I'm gonna holler at you.
Yes, yes. We're better than what's them people called
Spirit.
Spirit Airlines. Yes, we're not them.
All right, all right. I'm
Thank
gonna
you for
close.
having me.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. I'm gonna go ahead and close out the show. Stay backstage. I'm gonna holler at you
All right, bet.
in just a second.
Okay.
But for now, listen, everyone. That was our episode with Trinita Coefield. We learned a lot. There's a lot to be learned or gained or gleaned from that episode. Mainly, you want to start young, get these kids raised up by the time that they're 5. And there's a lot to navigate. So there's a lot for you to think about when you're trying to get them raised up by that age. Yeah, I'm excited to get this thing going. I am still scared about my little guy dating and whatnot, because I want to make sure that I have made a little man that is going to keep your child, I will say, safe if they're dating them. Right. So there you have it. Another great episode of the Blerd Dad podcast. I'm so happy to bring it to you each and every Monday. And, you can check it out on Spotify, check it out on Apple Podcasts, wherever those are found. Go ahead and look us up, levelupcomedy.com to get more information. The Blerd Dad podcast on Twitter, Level Up Comedy on Twitter, GlennLawrence Laughs on Twitter as well. Yeah, that's where we find us. Please like, share, subscribe to the Blerd Dad podcast. Let us know how we're doing so we can get you the information that you need to raise these kids up right and well. Get it? Because upright is all right. I don't need to explain the jokes. Okay, I'm a comedian. I should know that. Anyways, I should just end this here and say, blerd that out.